do you think about the addition of bringing Corey Batoon, the former South Alabama DC, to Missouri to call defense?
Yeah, this is a name that I really didn't even expect to be in any major P5 contending teams conversations. I really would not have thought that they would have gone after a defensive coordinator from a staff that just lost its head coach, but it's a good move. I mean, I look at what South Alabama has done over the past couple of years. They have been one of the best defenses in the G5 in that time period. Last year, they only averaged allowing 21 points per game and 312 yards per game. They had the 15th total defense in the country last season. And then I also would like to point out the development and the production for Yam Banks, who I believe is transferring to Ole Miss this upcoming season, would have been a safety that would have been a part of the 2024 NFL draft had he not decided to enter the transfer portal. He's a good coach. He has done some very productive things at the G5 level, which are worthy of recognition. However, it's 2023 going in, or sorry, it's 2024. We're going into the 2024 season. I think college football is more and more different than it's ever been. And I'm just really wary about these G5 promotions. I would almost rather hire an assistant from another staff or promote from within, which was going to be tough because LSU rated multiple guys, not just Blake Baker. But I almost would have rather they go for a defensive coordinator from another staff in the Power 5 or an assistant, just because I just don't love sometimes these G5 guys do not work out. We get really optimistic. We say, look at all the stats to prove it, but they're going up against such a different level of talent that I don't know if this is for sure going to work out. I'm a little wary. I'm a little skeptical. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, let me say this. Now, Eli Drinkwitz hired Blake Baker as his DC, who was a fired linebackers coach at LSU. So,
well, wait. Was he fired or was he just, let go because of coaching turnover? Because the staff was
technically
changed.
He's fired. Brian Kelly could have retained him.
I wouldn't necessarily call, but he wasn't fired because of
less.
He wasn't fired because of performance. He was
not
retained.
At the same time, he was fired at Miami for being the DC. Goes and is the linebackers coach. I get what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah.
All I'm saying is, on paper, Blake Baker technically is a fired linebackers coach from LSU that he makes a DC. That's a massive jump for Blake Baker. I get what you're saying, though. But you know what's interesting? It's not like he hasn't been around good head coaches before, though, or coaches that are offensive-minded. He was with Nick Saban in 2017 at Florida Atlantic. He was the co-DC with Lane, coach safeties and special teams as well. Joe was the DC at Hawaii for 2 years, then went to Liberty to coach safeties, and then was at South Alabama. Look, I think he fits a need because Baker coached safeties, right? So they don't really want to have a guy that comes in and coaches linebackers, as an example, because they already have a linebackers coach. They already have staff that's already filled in here that Eli Drinkwitz has put together. I do agree, though. I do get skeptical when it comes to hiring guys from a G5 level that has not called plays in the Power 5. But you look, Corey Batoon has been in the SEC before. It's not like he hasn't. He's had time at Ole Miss. He was actually an assistant AD for recruiting operations in 13 and 14, and then he coached safeties in 15 and 16. So look, I get what you're saying. I would say I agree if he didn't have a lot of time in the SEC. So he's been there with you, right? I'm pretty sure in 2015, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that would be Hugh, because I don't think there was. Wait, who was after Hugh?
Matt Luke. Let me just check this very quickly. So Hugh Freeze, was at Ole Miss with Hugh Freeze, 15 and 16 coach safeties. Okay, was with Lane Kiffin at Florida Atlantic, and now is going with Eli Drinkwitz. He's been with some really good offensive-minded guys now. And you know what's even crazier with that? Okay, you have Hugh Freeze, Lane Kiffin, And now Eli Drinkwitz, 3 offensive-minded head coaches that's hired him for some kind of either position coach or as a coordinator.
Here's the only thing that I think that this type of a hire is meant for. It reminds me of the Austin Armstrong hire last year, which is a guy that I know that you really like that was hired from Southern Miss. Southern Miss's defense was really good. He got hired, some would argue, a year early.
He didn't have any SEC experience, though.
He was a quality control coach at Georgia. I mean,
yeah, but
still,
not,
I know, but he's a young guy.
Coach.
Very, very, very young guy. So it's a little bit different. All I'm saying is that when you hire one of these G5 coaches, and I know that Batoon's a much older coach, I feel like it fits a little bit better with a developing program that is kind of building a foundation, not one that is about to make potentially an SEC championship shot run. Like this is their. Come on, what do you mean? What are you saying that they're in a position to compete for the SEC championship this year?
No, they're not.
That's an outland. Okay, this is one of the better chances that they have in a long time. This is one of the better rosters that they have, and they didn't lose that much talent. Forget that for a second. They're trying to make a playoff in 2024. They're good enough to make the playoff in 2024, which we've talked about. And I don't know if a G5 coach is going to pick things up where Baker left off. He was the most important coach on their staff, Baker, because of how freaking good their defense was. And to jump for that change to a G5 guy, it leaves a lot of questions for me.
I mean, look, they don't have Georgia on their schedule. They switch it out for Alabama and then Oklahoma in back-to-back weeks. One of those obviously being on the road at Alabama. I get what I understand what you're saying. Okay. I don't think they're SEC championship worthy yet. I don't know if they're there because I think Blake Baker is a big loss. I don't know if Batoon can come in. And, Joe, they lost a good chunk of good pieces defensively. And they lost arguably their 2 best coaches in Peoples and Blake Baker. So, no, I don't think that they're SEC championship worried. Now,
I mean, they had a good portal haul. They've added a number of strong players defensively. I'm not worried. I'm kind of shocked that you don't think that they're good enough to be in that top 4.
Worthy?
Okay, let me rephrase. That's a long shot for them to win the SEC championship game, but we also didn't think that they'd be as good as they were last year. As they were.
Oh, hold on.
No. You said that you thought that they were a sleeper, but you did not paint them to be
Joe
a touchdown away from Georgia.
I picked them to finish second in the East. What are you talking about?
I don't think you picked them that high. I can go find that graphic. I'm gonna go find that graphic. I don't remember you picking them that high. I remember you being optimistic about them, but I don't remember you picking them that high. Look, at the end of the day, though, the whole point is here is that they. Yeah, you didn't. The whole point is here is that this is supposed to be a next step type of a year with all the guys that they're bringing back. Brady Cook comes back. Luther Burden comes back. That team can be really good in 2024, and you're relying on a stop. Of course, your Facebook followers are going to say that you did. It's a big year. Can you address that point and not so much the point that I'm making about them being good in 2024?
I think they have a favorable schedule that could lead them to having another year of really good success. I just don't know how Corey Batoon sets them in a direction. Maybe he does work out. I just think this is why I think happens. He coaches safeties. He's a defensive coordinator. They don't want to get rid of their inside linebackers coach. Okay, so they get a guy that coaches safeties and is a play caller. That's 1,000% what I think this is. I think it fixes a need. Now, again, Joe, I'll give Batoon this. It does show that he went into interviews and meetings with 3 offensive coaches, and either they made him a position coach or a co-DC or now a DC. I think that that's something that we need to take into account here. What did he say in those meetings with those 3 offensive guys that got him these jobs? I mean, like, it would be one – Joe, you know what this is like? Let me tell you what this is like. This is like Saban going and hiring Austin Armstrong as his, inside linebackers coach. The difference is, okay, like you're surprised by that. Okay, I mean, not you, but I mean, like, people are like, oh, damn, this kid must really know what he's talking about. When you surprise those good coaches, that has to mean something. Like, he's saying something in those interviews that has to show something. He's not just going in there and playing with his yoo-hoo.
I know. I'm not implying that he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm just saying, look, the numbers support that he's a good defensive coordinator and that he was doing it at South Alabama was notable.
Well, here comes the second question. Now, Alabama just hired South Alabama's head coach to be their DC. Who was calling the defense?
That I don't know for certain. That's kind of one of the things that perked my head up, is that head coach was just hired to be.
He didn't have control in the defense. Let's call it what it is. That's the concern for me. Okay, if you want me to finally come out with and give you my biggest concern, here it is. My biggest concern is he did not really have full control of a defense. So you're hiring a guy who he's got play calling technically, but that's also like being the offensive coordinator for Lincoln Riley.
I don't even know who the offensive coordinator is for Lincoln Riley off the top of my head.
No, nobody does. Do you know the offensive coordinator for Ole Miss? Now, you might be able to get this one.
It's Charlie Weiss Jr. I know that.
Okay, because you wanted him to be your OC.
Yeah.
What about Jeff Lebby? You know Jeff Lebby's? We'll talk about him. You know his OC?
I mean, that staff's so new. I don't really
see. That's my point. No, that's the part that concerns me. So the strength is that he is impressed three really good offensive-minded coaches. What gives me a little pause is, okay, well, who was calling the defense at South Alabama? Was it you or somebody else?
Well, that's what I'm kind of getting at here, and where that was one of the things that stands out to me is that the guy who was running that team and was these people find the graphic and find where he said that he did. You did not pick them to finish second in the East.
I did.
I don't remember that. My whole point is here, though, Blake, is that it's strange to me that Alabama hires who his boss was, and then your move for Missouri is to hire the defensive coordinator under him. Like, who's more responsible there?
Yeah.
Like, that just feels weird. It's one of those things where I can't fully elaborate and explain it. It just doesn't. It feels off.
You know who? You know what it feels like?
What?
It honestly feels like something Billy Napier would do.
I mean, that's kind of what I've been getting at.
You know what else it feels like? It feels something exactly like Eli Drinkwitz would do. Eli Drinkwitz is it's not a. I mean, have you ever listened to an Eli Drinkwitz press conference? It is when LSU played him this year, I went to go listen to a lot of his press conferences. The dude is he's a different animal. He's a different kind of guy. But that's why they call him the professor.
I guess it's not totally surprising that he comes from a G5 background. That he's
that's where the head coach came from.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Look, Eli's had a lot of success. I think he could have a lot of success this year, right? I mean, their schedule is very favorable. Joe, I think they could beat Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I absolutely do. And
I think that they could beat Oklahoma. Now, Bama,
no. At the end of the day, what this all comes down to, their success of 2024 is going to be contingent on, does the defense not take a major step backward? They're going to take a step back because they're losing 6 guys to the NFL. 2 of their corners, their top linebacker, one of their edge rushers. It's not going to be easy to replace those guys. But can you go from being in top, still staying in the top 50? That to me is what's going to be important, because your offense is going to be so good this upcoming season.
In closing out here, Marvelous said definitely did, no cap.
Somebody find the graphic. I can't find the graphic. There's no proof. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.